The nameplate sat like a blade on the reception table, its cruel words glinting under the soft glow of fairy lights. Low-educated fake. Elena Martinez's breath caught, her fingers trembling as she touched the engraved letters, each one a silent accusation slicing through the joy of her daughter's wedding. She was here, a single mother who'd fought tooth and nail to raise Mia. Yet someone at this celebration had reduced her life to a vicious lie. Elena, 45, stood tall despite the sting, her chestnut hair catching the evening light as she adjusted her simple navy dress. She'd spent months saving for this moment. For Mia's wedding to her college sweetheart, Lucas, in a charming venue just outside Portland, Oregon. The air smelled of lavender and pine, and laughter floated from the dance floor where Mia, radiant in white, twirled with her new husband. But that nameplate, tucked among the floral centerpieces, was a poisoned dart aimed at Elena's heart. She scanned the room, her warm brown eyes searching for the culprit. The guests, Lucas's affluent family, Mia's college friends, and a few of Elena's co-workers from the diner mingled in their tailored suits and glittering dresses. Elena had always felt out of place among them, her high school diploma and years of waitressing setting her apart from their degrees and corner offices. But she'd never let it define her. She'd raised Mia alone after her husband left when Mia was 3, working double shifts to pay for dance lessons, school supplies, and eventually college tuition. Mia, now 22, was her proof of Victoria, brilliant, kind-hearted woman who'd earned a scholarship to Oregon State. Yet the nameplate burned. Low-educated fake. The words weren't just an insult, they were a challenge daring her to shrink, to hide. Elena's jaw tightened. She wouldn't. Not today. Not when her daughter was glowing. Not when she'd spent 2 decades building a life from grit and love. Across the room, Sarah Thompson, 38, watched Elena from beside the open bar. Sarah's green eyes softened as she took in Elena's quiet strength, the way she held herself despite the weight of that cruel nameplate. Sarah, a high school English teacher with a sharp wit and a penchant for tailored blazers, had known Elena for years. They'd met at the diner where Elena worked, their conversations over late-night coffee turning into something deeper, something neither had dared name until recently. Sarah, openly lesbian and fiercely independent, had been drawn to Elena's resilience, her warmth, her refusal to let the world break her. Sarah crossed the room, her blonde hair catching the light as she moved. "Elena," she said softly, her voice steady but laced with concern. "You okay?" Elena forced a smile, tucking the nameplate under a napkin. "Just someone's idea of a joke," she said, her voice low. But Sarah saw through it. She always did. "It's not a joke," Sarah said, her tone firm. "It's a coward's attack. And you don't deserve it." Elena's eyes met Sarah's, and for a moment, the noise of the wedding faded, the clinking glasses, the music, the chatter. There was only Sarah, her unwavering gaze, her hand brushing Elena's in a gesture that felt like an anchor. Elena had spent years dodging her feelings for Sarah, afraid of what it meant to love a woman, afraid of the judgment in a small town where whispers traveled fast. But Sarah had been patient, never pushing, always there. "Let me handle this," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a protective whisper. "Whoever did this doesn't get to ruin tonight." Elena shook her head. "No. This is Mia's day. I won't let it become about me." But Sarah's eyes flashed with defiance. "It's about you two. You're the reason Mia's here, the reason she's who she is. Don't let them take that from you." The words hit Elena like a wave, stirring something deep, a mix of pride and pain. She'd spent her life proving herself, first as a young single mom, then as a woman navigating a world that judged her for her lack of a degree, her modest income, her quiet strength. And now, as she stood on the edge of her daughter's new chapter, someone had tried to reduce her to a caricature. But Elena wasn't alone anymore. Sarah was here, and that changed everything. As the night unfolded, the wedding buzzed with joy. Mia pulled Elena onto the dance floor, her laughter bright as they swayed to a slow song. "You look beautiful, Mom," Mia whispered, her eyes shining. Elena's heart swelled, but the nameplate's words lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. Sarah, meanwhile, kept her eyes on the crowd, searching for clues. She noticed Lucas's mother, Vivian, a polished woman in her 60s with a penchant for sharp comments, lingering near the table where the nameplate had been. Vivian had never hidden her disdain for Elena, once calling her unsuitable for mixing with their family. Could she have done this? Or was it someone else, someone closer, someone who knew how to cut deep? The reception continued, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Elena and Sarah exchanged glances, a silent pact forming. They would find out who'd left that nameplate, not just for Elena's sake, but for the truth. Because tonight wasn't just about a wedding, it was about claiming the life Elena had built, and the love she was finally ready to embrace. As the band struck up a new song, Sarah took Elena's hand, pulling her close. "Dance with me," she said, her voice soft but unyielding. Elena hesitated, aware of the eyes around them, but Sarah's grip was steady, her smile a quiet rebellion. And so, under the fairy lights, they danced, two women defying the world's judgments, their hearts beating in sync. But the nameplate wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a storm that would test their love, their courage, and the bonds of family. Elena didn't know it yet, but the truth behind those cruel words would unravel secrets she'd buried for years, and force her to confront the woman she'd always been. The dance floor pulsed with life, but Elena's mind was elsewhere, replaying the nameplate's words. Low-educated fake. She moved with Sarah, their steps slow and deliberate, but her heart raced with questions. Who would do this? And why now, on the one day that should have been untouchable? Sarah's hand tightened around Elena's, grounding her. "You're thinking about it," Sarah murmured, her breath warm against Elena's ear. "Don't let it win." Elena nodded, but the weight of the insult clung to her. She'd faced judgment before, whispers at parent-teacher meetings, sidelong glances from Lucas's family, but this was different. This was personal, calculated, meant to wound. As they swayed, Elena caught Vivian's eye across the room. The older woman's lips curved into a tight smile, her gaze lingering just long enough to feel like a challenge. "Let's get some air," Elena said, pulling Sarah toward the venue's garden. The night was cool, the scent of roses heavy in the air. They stood under a willow tree, its branches swaying gently, and Elena finally let her guard down. "I don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I've worked so hard. For Mia. For myself. Why would someone hate me this much?" Sarah's face softened, but her voice was fierce. "They don't hate you. They're scared of you. You're proof that their fancy degrees and big houses don't make them better. You raised an incredible woman, Elena. That's power they can't touch." Elena's eyes stung, but she blinked back tears. She wasn't one to cry, not in front of others, not even when her ex-husband walked out, leaving her with a toddler and a stack of bills. But Sarah's words cracked something open, a vulnerability she buried long ago. She reached for Sarah's hand, their fingers intertwining, and for a moment the world felt right. Back inside, the reception was in full swing. Mia and Lucas cut the cake, their laughter drawing cheers from the crowd. Elena watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. Mia had always been her anchor, her reason to keep going. But as she clapped along with the guests, she noticed something, a flicker of unease in Mia's eyes when she glanced at her mother. It was brief, but it hit Elena like a punch. Did Mia know about the nameplate? Or was there something else? Sarah, ever observant, caught it too. "She's hiding something," Sarah whispered, leaning close. "I've seen that look before. She's worried about you." Elena frowned. "Mia would tell me if something was wrong." "Would she?" Sarah asked gently. "She's your daughter. She'd protect you, just like you've always protected her." The thought gnawed at Elena. Mia had always been open with her, sharing everything from crushes to college stress. But lately Mia had been distant, her calls shorter, her visits rushed. Elena had chalked it up to wedding planning, but now she wasn't sure. Had Mia seen the nameplate? Or worse, did she know who'd left it? As the night wore on, Elena and Sarah played detective. Sarah chatted up guests, her teacher's charm disarming even the stiffest of Lucas's relatives. Elena, meanwhile, kept her eyes on Vivian, who seemed to float through the crowd with an air of untouchable superiority. When Vivian excused herself to the restroom, Elena followed, her pulse quickening. The restroom was empty except for Vivian, who stood at the mirror, adjusting her pearl necklace. Elena cleared her throat. "Vivian, can we talk?" Vivian's reflection met Elena's in the mirror, her expression cool. "Of course, Elena. What's on your mind?" Elena's hands clenched at her sides. "The nameplate. The one that called me a fake. Do you know anything about it?" Vivian's lips twitched, but her face remained unreadable. "A nameplate?" How dreadful. I'm sure it was just a tasteless prank. Elena's gut twisted. Vivian's tone was too smooth, too practiced. It wasn't a prank, Elena said, her voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. Someone went out of their way to hurt me. On my daughter's wedding day. Vivian turned, her eyes narrowing. Elena, I understand you're upset, but let's not make a scene. This is Mia's day after all. The dismissal stung, but Elena held her ground. If you know something, Vivian, tell me. I deserve that much. Vivian sighed, as if Elena were a child throwing a tantrum. I don't know anything about your little nameplate, Elena, but if I may offer some advice, perhaps you'd feel less targeted if you didn't draw so much attention to yourself. The words landed like a slap. Elena's face burned, but before she could respond, Vivian swept out of the restroom, leaving her alone with her reflection. She gripped the sink, her breath ragged. Vivian's words echoed the nameplate's cruelty, but they also stirred a memory, something from years ago, something Elena had buried. Back at the reception, Sarah found Elena, her face tight with worry. What happened? She asked, pulling Elena aside. Elena recounted the conversation, her voice low. Sarah's jaw clenched. She's lying, Sarah said. I talked to the event planner. The nameplates were custom ordered by Lucas's family. Vivian had final approval. Elena's heart sank. So it was her. Maybe, Sarah said. But we need proof. And we need to talk to Mia. If Vivian's behind this, Mia might know why. They found Mia near the dessert table, her smile fading as she saw their expressions. Mom? Sarah? What's wrong? Elena hesitated, then pulled the nameplate from her purse. This was on my table, Mia. Do you know anything about it? Mia's face paled, her eyes darting to the nameplate. Oh, Mom. I didn't think. Didn't think what? Elena pressed, her voice gentle but firm. Mia bit her lip, tears welling. I heard Vivian talking to Lucas's aunt a few weeks ago. They were saying things about you, about how you didn't fit in. I told them to stop, but I didn't think they'd do something like this. Elena's heart broke, not for herself but for Mia, who'd been carrying this alone. She pulled her daughter into a hug. It's okay, sweetheart. This isn't your fault. But as Mia clung to her, Elena felt a new resolve. Vivian or whoever was behind this wouldn't get away with it. Not while she had Sarah by her side, and not while her love for Mia burned brighter than any insult. The wedding wound down, guests drifting to their cars under a starlit sky, but Elena's battle was just beginning. She and Sarah sat on a bench outside the venue, the nameplate between them like a ticking bomb. Mia had gone back to Lucas, promising to talk to him about Vivian, but Elena couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this, something deeper, something tied to her past. Sarah leaned closer, her voice soft. You're stronger than they know, Elena. But you don't have to do this alone. Elena's chest tightened. She'd spent so long being the strong one, single mom, tireless worker, unbreakable. But Sarah's presence, her unwavering support, made Elena want to let go, to lean into the love she'd been afraid to claim. She reached for Sarah's hand, their fingers lacing together. I'm scared, Elena admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Not just about the nameplate. About what people will say. Sarah's eyes softened, but her grip was firm. Let them talk. I've been out for years, Elena. I've heard it all. What matters is Usher now. Elena wanted to believe her, but the nameplate's words echoed Vivian's warning. Don't draw attention to yourself. Coming out as a lesbian in her small town at 45 wasn't just personal, it was a declaration. One that could ripple through Mia's life, her job, her world. Yet Sarah's courage was infectious, pulling Elena toward a truth she'd buried for years. They decided to confront Vivian the next day, after the wedding's chaos had settled. But first they needed answers. Sarah suggested digging into Elena's past, specifically her marriage to Mia's father, Javier. The fake part of that nameplate, Sarah said. It feels personal, like someone knows something you haven't told me. Elena's stomach churned. She hadn't spoken about Javier in years, not even to Mia. He'd left when Elena was 25, after a marriage marked by his charm and her sacrifices. She'd dropped out of college to support him, believing his promises of a better life. When he left, she'd rebuilt herself from nothing, but the shame of that choice of giving up her dreams had never fully faded. I don't talk about him, Elena said, her voice tight. He's gone. It doesn't matter. Sarah tilted her head, her gaze gentle but piercing. It matters if someone's using it against you. What if Vivian knows something? Or someone else from back then? Elena's mind raced. Javier had been charming, manipulative, always spinning stories to get what he wanted. Could he be connected to this? Or was it Vivian, using Elena's past to keep her in her place? The thought made her blood boil, but it also sparked fear. What if the truth about her marriage, her dropped-out college years, her naive trust in Javier came out? The next morning, Elena and Sarah drove to Vivian's house, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of town. Mia had texted, warning them that Vivian was upset about the nameplate confrontation but willing to talk. Elena's nerves jangled as they pulled into the driveway, the mansion's grandeur a stark contrast to her modest apartment. Vivian greeted them at the door, her smile as polished as her pearls. Elena, Sarah, come in. Let's clear the air. Inside, the house was immaculate, all white walls and modern art. Vivian led them to a sitting room, her demeanor cool but guarded. I assume this is about that unfortunate nameplate, she said, sipping tea. I assure you I had nothing to do with it. Sarah leaned forward, her teacher's authority in her voice. Then explain why the event planner said you approved the nameplates. Every single one. Vivian's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. A misunderstanding, I'm sure. I delegated the task to my assistant. Perhaps she made an error. Elena's patience snapped. An error? Calling me a fake isn't an error, Vivian. It's a choice. If you didn't do it, who did? Vivian set her teacup down, her eyes narrowing. Elena, I don't appreciate your tone. I've welcomed Mia into our family despite differences in our backgrounds. Perhaps you should be grateful instead of making accusations. The words cut deep, but Sarah's hand on Elena's knee kept her grounded. We're not accusing, Sarah said calmly. We're asking. If you know something, tell us. For Mia's sake. Vivian's gaze flickered, and for a moment Elena saw something: guilt? Fear. But before she could press further, Vivian's phone rang. She excused herself, leaving Elena and Sarah alone. Sarah turned to Elena, her voice low. She's hiding something. I can feel it. Elena nodded, her mind racing. I need to talk to Mia again. If Vivian's covering for someone, Mia might know who. They left Vivian's house with more questions than answers, but Elena felt a shift. The nameplate wasn't just an attack, it was a clue. A thread leading to a truth she'd avoided for too long. As they drove back to town, Sarah reached for her hand, and Elena didn't pull away. For the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next, not just for herself, but for the life she wanted with Sarah. Elena sat across from Mia at a coffee shop in downtown Portland, the morning light filtering through the windows. Sarah had stayed behind, giving them space, but her words from the night before echoed in Elena's mind. The truth is worth fighting for. Mia fidgeted with her coffee cup, her eyes avoiding Elena's. Mom, I'm so sorry, Mia said, her voice trembling. I should have told you about Vivian sooner. I didn't want to hurt you. Elena reached for her daughter's hand. You're not hurting me, Mia. But I need to know everything. What did Vivian say? And why? Mia took a deep breath. A few months ago, I overheard her talking to Lucas's Aunt Patricia. They were digging into your past, your marriage to Dad, why you never finished college. Vivian said you misrepresented yourself. That you weren't who you claimed to be. Elena's heart sank. Misrepresented? What does that even mean? Mia's eyes filled with tears. They found some old records, your college application, your marriage certificate. They said you lied about finishing high school, that you faked your way into college before you dropped out. Vivian called you a fraud. The word hit like a bullet. Elena's mind reeled, memories flooding back. She had finished high school, but barely, scraping by with night classes while pregnant with Mia. College had been a dream, one she'd abandoned when Javier convinced her to marry him instead. She'd never lied, but Javier had spun stories about her to his family, exaggerating her education to make himself look better. Could those lies have followed her all these years? Mia, Elena said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. I never lied about who I am. I didn't finish college, but I earned every bit of my life. You know that. Mia nodded, tears spilling. I know, Mom. I told them they were wrong, but Vivian. She's obsessed with status. She thinks you're not good enough for our family. Elena's anger flared, but so did her resolve. Then we prove her wrong. Together. Back at home, Elena called Sarah, filling her in. Sarah's voice was calm but determined. We need to find those records. If Vivian's using Javier's lies against you, we can clear your name. They spent the afternoon at the county records office, digging through old files. Elena's hand shook as she pulled her college application from 25 years ago. There it was, her high school diploma, her acceptance letter, her brief enrollment before she'd left. No lies, no fraud. But attached to the file was a letter from Javier's mother, dated years ago, claiming Elena had falsified her credentials to trap Javier. The lie had been dormant, waiting for someone like Vivian to resurrect it. Sarah's eyes blazed as she read the letter. This is it. Vivian must have found this and twisted it for the nameplate. But why? Elena's mind clicked. Control. She wants to keep me in my place, away from Mia. Away from her perfect family image. Sarah nodded. Then we confront her. But not just with words. With proof. They planned to meet Vivian at a family brunch the next day, where Lucas's relatives would be gathered. Elena felt a mix of dread and determination. This wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about claiming her truth. For Mia, for Sarah, for herself. At the brunch, held at a chic restaurant overlooking the Willamette River, Elena and Sarah arrived together, their hands clasped. The room fell silent as they entered, Vivian's eyes narrowing at the sight of their linked hands. Elena's heart pounded, but Sarah's presence steadied her. Vivian, Elena said, her voice clear, we need to talk. About the nameplate. And about the lies you've been spreading. Vivian's smile was icy. Elena, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. Sarah cut in, holding up the file. We have proof. Elena never lied about her education. The only fraud here is the story you've been telling. The room buzzed with whispers, but Elena kept her eyes on Vivian. I'm not a fake, she said, her voice ringing with conviction. I'm a mother who raised her daughter alone. I'm a woman who loves fiercely. And I'm done letting you or anyone make me feel less. Mia stood, her face flushed with pride. She's right. Mom's the strongest person I know. And if you can't accept her, you don't accept me. Vivian's composure cracked, her eyes darting to the other guests. For the first time she looked small, exposed. I only wanted what's best for Lucas, she said weakly. Then want what's best for Mia, Sarah said. And that starts with respecting her mother. As the brunch continued, Elena felt a weight lift. The truth was out, and though Vivian's apology was grudging, it was a start. But more than that, Elena felt free to love Sarah openly. Free to be the woman she'd always been. The weeks after the brunch were a whirlwind. Elena's confrontation with Vivian had rippled through the family, forcing conversations that had long been avoided. Lucas's relatives, once distant, reached out with apologies, some genuine, some perfunctory. But Elena didn't care about their approval anymore. She'd found something better, her own voice, and the courage to live her truth. She and Sarah grew closer, their relationship no longer a secret. They spent evenings walking along the Portland waterfront, talking about everything from books to dreams to the future. Elena, who'd once feared judgment, now held Sarah's hand in public, her heart light with possibility. Mia too seemed lighter, her bond with Elena stronger than ever. She and Lucas visited often, their laughter filling Elena's small apartment. But the nameplate's shadow lingered. Elena couldn't shake the question of why Vivian had gone so far. One evening, as she and Sarah sorted through old photos, Elena found a letter tucked in a box, a letter from Javier, dated just a year ago. Her hands trembled as she read it. Javier, now living in California, had written to Mia, claiming he wanted to reconnect. He'd mentioned Elena, spinning the same old lies about her education, her deceptions. At the bottom he'd added a note, "Tell your mother-in-law she owes me. She'll know why." Elena's blood ran cold. "Vivian," she whispered. "She must have been in touch with him." Sarah's eyes widened. "Javier?" After all these years. Elena nodded, piecing it together. Vivian wanted to control the narrative. She used Javier's lies to undermine me, to keep Mia tied to her family's world. Sarah pulled Elena close. Then we end this. For good. They tracked down Javier's contact information through Mia, who'd kept his letter but never responded. Elena called him, her voice steady as she confronted the man who'd left her all those years ago. Javier, whatever you told Vivian, it stops now. I'm not the woman you left. And I'm not afraid of you. Javier's voice was smooth, unrepentant. I just told the truth, Elena. You always wanted to be more than you were. No, Elena said, her voice fierce. I'm exactly who I'm meant to be. And you don't get to define me. She hung up, her heart pounding but free. Sarah was there, her arms around Elena, her love a shield against the past. You did it, Sarah whispered. You're unstoppable. Months later, Elena stood at Mia's first anniversary party, a smaller gathering at a park near their home. The nameplate was a distant memory, its sting replaced by pride. Mia and Lucas were thriving, their love a testament to Elena's sacrifices. And Sarah was her future, her partner in every sense. As the sun set, Elena raised a glass, her voice steady. To family, she said, her eyes meeting Sarah's, then Mia's. To love. And to never letting anyone tell us who we are. The crowd cheered, but Elena's heart was full for a different reason. She'd attended her daughter's wedding as a proud single mom, but she'd left it as so much more, a woman who'd faced her past, claimed her love, and proved that no nameplate could define her worth. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.